And I do not know him, but would Jody please come up and share some of your experience, strength, and hope with us?
Hello, my name is Jody. I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety, my true sobriety date, is March the 1st of this year. I say true sobriety date because the first time, in 40-something years of being an alcoholic, 35 years of in and out of AA, I have truly been sober for 9 months. You know what I mean? It might not seem like a lot to y'all. It might not seem like a lot to y'all, but it's a whole lot to me because I've been in and out. I've been, my part of my story goes I tell us about going back and backward always, and whatever I did, I was in and out of that dead-end street over and over again, you know what I mean? I'd be in a program, I get clean, you know what I mean, then I get back on my feet, you know what I mean, I'm back out there doing the same old thing all over again, going back down that same dead-end street, you know what I mean, falling in that same old hole, you know what I mean? And it took, like I say, 30-some years before it finally dawned on me, you know what I mean, that the person that you say you is, I consider myself as a jack of all trades. There wasn't nothing that I cannot do. I tried to do it all. You know what I mean? Alcohol, okay, I go in the program since y'all court ordered me to go in the program. You know what I mean? I made a mistake, you know what I mean? Whatever, that is what I mean. But as soon as I get back on my feet, I'm out there again. I'm in charge all over again. The jack of all trades. You know what I mean? Like I said, it took me 35 years in and out of the program for me to finally realize that I was a master of none of them. You know what I mean? So after falling into that same old hole and going down that same old dead-end street, you know what I mean, I found out that hole was deeper this time. You know what I mean? And I had reached my total bottom. You know what I mean? And I decided, you know what I mean, that I was going to come in here, you know what I mean, and I was going to master this program. You know what I mean? But I was going to do it like the program said it's supposed to be done. You know what I mean? And I started from the very beginning, you know what I mean, to serenity prayer. From the start of the meeting, they say you got to be, the moment of silence and serenity prayer. So I got a serenity prayer. Because, see, I treated serenity prayer like the national anthem, at a ball game, you know what I mean? It was just a formality. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I didn't mean it. I mean, it was serenity prayer. I didn't even pray it. I just recited it. So this time I got into it. You know what I mean? I started praying it, and I broke it down in 3 different ways. And I got into the things that I could not change. And I started accepting them because it was hard for me to accept the fact that I was a failure. You know what I mean? I was an effort. It was hard for me to accept that. You know what I mean? So I finally just took a look at myself and said, yeah, you was a failure. You know what I mean? So then that's when I got into the steps. You know what I mean? And one thing that I learned, the only way that I can really get into this program and really get into it and get the effects of it, I had to be honest. First with myself. You know what I mean? And that started with step 1, admit to the fact that I was powerless over my alcohol. You know what I mean? Admit to the fact that I was powerless over anything was hard for me to do. But I had to do it this time, and I did it. You know what I mean? And it made it easy for me when I, things started falling into place then, you know what I mean? That, hey, yeah, my life has become manageable. My life has become manageable, you know what I mean? Yeah, I need a power of somebody greater than me to bring me back to my sanity, because, yeah, I am insane. You know what I mean? And for, and like the third step, I was like, from the beginning, I was like, like everybody else, when they down and out, the first thing come out their mouth is, Lord, have mercy. You know, that was me. You know, but once I got back on my feet, I didn't get to the third step. You know, I'm all right now. I'm back in charge. You know what I mean? This time, you know what I mean? No, I made a decision. I turned it all over to my higher power, who I choose to call God. You know what I mean? And He has showed me over and over and over again, you know what I mean, that He is working in my behalf. You know what I mean? He's in charge of my life and my will right now, you know. So my mom used to tell me a long time ago, you know, according to the Bible, you reap what you sow. She said, according to the street, if you do bad, bad will come back to you. But if you do good, good will come back to you. You know what I mean? So when I just had made that decision to turn my life over to my care of my God, you know what I mean? That old saying that my mom used to tell me all the time came back to me. And I've been making sure everything I did, regardless of what it is, you know what I mean, it was something good. I reached out to other people, you know what I mean? Because I heard the old saying a long time ago, you can't keep it until you get it away. So I'm always, you know, doing what I got to do as far as the program is concerned, you know. But, you know, things started happening. And I, you know, at first, you know, when somebody offered to do something good to me, I used to like what they want. You know, but now, you know, I'm accepting it, you know what I mean, and just over and over again, you know, you know, I say, you know what I mean, but the difference in me now, and something that I realized, you know what I mean, see, once upon a time when, like I say, when I came in the program and I got back on my feet, you know what I mean, I used to get the big head. Because, you know, when you come in the program and start being in the program, good things happen, you meet good people, you know what I mean, good things start happening to you, I mean, but back then, before I used to get the big head. I don't care how big it is or how small it is, I give thanks. I give thanks now, you know what I mean, because it's God working in my behalf, you know what I mean, He's doing it, you know what I mean, and I can't tell you, I go up to, you know, talking about taking my inventory, you know what I mean, I be checking off things. Did all that happen with me? God. Oh, how much good. It's all because of me really being honest with what's happening with me and really getting into the doing what has got to be done in the program. To the new people that's here tonight, believe me, it works. You know what I mean? It works. You know what I mean? And I am thankful every day. You know what I mean? It used to be my single prayer used to be every morning since I've been back at this time. You know what I mean? I thank my higher power for another day of life and another day of sobriety. Because, see, I don't plan, I don't map it out and contract it out no more. You know what I mean? I just deal with today. You know what I mean? In regard, although I got 9 months sober, the only thing I'm looking at right now is today. You know what I mean? And the good thing is it don't happen to me again. You know what I mean? I'm here sharing it with some good people. Thank you for letting me share.
Oh, would Chris please come up and read the traditions?
I'm Chris Bush, I'm an alcoholic. These are the 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous. 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends on AA unity. 2, for our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God as He may express Himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. 3, the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. 4, Each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. 5, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. 6, an AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert from our primary purpose. 7, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9, AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those who serve. 10, Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues, hence the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. And 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities.
I'm so grateful. My seat in Alcoholics Anonymous is based on progress and not perfection, because I'd have lost my job a long time ago. At this time, I would like to ask Ryan to please come up and do the chips.
Hey, I'm Ryan. I'm an alcoholic. Here at Fourth Dimension, we have a chip system that denotes length of sobriety. And our first chip is a silver chip for 24 hours. Anybody want to come up and pick up a silver chip? That's Vicky, everybody. Vicky. All right, we have a chip for 1 month. Anybody got a month? It's Kevin, everybody. I don't have a chip for it. Does anybody have 2 months that wants to come up and be recognized? No? All right, 3 months. That's Kim. Anybody have 6 months? It's Penny, everybody. 9 months. Anybody got 9? All right, 1 year or multiple years. Anybody want to come? That was Debbie and Susan. And if you hadn't had oh, we got one more. 8 years. All right, if you hadn't had a drink or drug today, give yourself a hand. Thanks.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to introduce our second speaker. Again, I do not know him. I did, however, recognize him because he is dressed very nice. Would Honda Mike please come up and share his experience, strength, and hope?
Mike, I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is December 19th, 1998. My home group is the Monday Night Speakers Group. Meet every Monday. St. Petersburg, Florida, sobriety capital of the world. 7:30, it's over on 49th Street North and 11th Avenue North. So if you're ever in St. Pete and you want to hit up a good speaker meeting, I like to think it's the best speaker meeting in the world, but that's all, opinion. This is opinions, not personalities. So I guess I got 30 minutes to tell you what it was like, what happened, and what it's like today. First off, I want to thank the group for having me out here. Chris asked me to speak, and I always think it's a big deal whenever you get to speak anywhere. And also, whenever there's a cake made by Susan, that's always a plus. Yes. That's my signature Heath Bar cake, by the way. You won't find it anywhere else but in AA. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I absolutely love Alcoholics Anonymous. I love everything that AA's given me, and AA's given me everything. It's a good life. It's a real good life. Oh, also, whoever did the website for this group, man, they did a hell of a job. If y'all aren't paying them, you need to, because that's about the best website I've seen in a long time. I mean, it's got good directions. I need that. You did it? No. All right. You can take credit. I don't care. But, that's really nice, But anyway, I guess I'll go ahead and get into my story. I want to thank Jody, David, and Darren. Darren drove for me because I had a meltdown. And Darren said he was going to drive for me because I live in downtown St. Pete. And normally that's a 45-minute drive, but today it's an hour and a half. And so it would have been longer. And I honestly thought we weren't going to make it. So Darren took over the driving because I don't do well in traffic. I don't know about you guys. I'm 41 years old, and I only had a job for 5 months where I had to commute. I just don't do well with traffic. I don't. And I'm okay with that, so I don't do traffic, Some people say pray about it, try it more. Bullshit. It doesn't work, and it's not going to work. So, the best option for me is not to engage in traffic. If I got to get a job, I work from home right now. My last job was 3/4 of a mile. And that's generally how I roll, But anyway, that's just to give you a little bit about where I'm at today. I'm a very anxious person, very scared person. I always tend to forget about the scared part, but that's very important to understand how much of a scared individual I am. And my biggest fear in life was that you would figure it out that I was scared, So generally what that means is, I'm willing to do anything to prove to you that I'm not scared. Which, I heard a speaker say one time, a guy was in a meeting, and, the guy is acting real tough in the meeting. The old timer walks up to him and says, hey, how you doing? He kind of nudges him, gives him that hard look. Old timer says, man, you think you're tough, don't you? And the guy kind of, he says, I don't think you're tough. I think you're scared, and that makes you dangerous. And I got that. That's what it means, I was definitely dangerous, but tough, no way at all. Scared of mice, rats, cockroaches, anything that crawls on you, I'm scared to death of it to this day. My wife found a mouse on a trap. She had to take care of it because I'm too scared. So anyway, I think I've proved my point. So, I guess I'll start from beginning. I don't want to stay too long in what it was like because, as David said, I'll never get out of jail. And that's important because, I've been sober long enough to have a sober life and to tell you how important that is, because that's what this is all about. I know you guys look really nice. You're dressed really nice, so you probably haven't had it that rough. Yeah, imagine that. So I was born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana, which by default makes me an alcoholic. I know this is Alcoholics Anonymous. I know our primary purpose is that we talk about alcohol, but long before there was alcohol, there was another substance for me, and that was the other white powder, and it's called sugar, and I loved it. As a kid, I could never get enough of it. I remember my first memories as a kid. I'd get up real early and I'd do shots of corn syrup and Hershey's chocolate syrup. I'd climb up on the counters and lay it out in little shot glasses. And then I would have some cereal. And then I would drink some Coca-Cola. And then I'd have some Freezy Pops. And on and on and on. And then my mom would always want me to take naps in the afternoon. And how that would go down was my mom would tell me and I'd like, no, no. So she'd chase me around the house and corral me into the bedroom and close the door. And then what I would do, since I was so high on sugar, would essentially bounce off the walls. And I'd get out my favorite record, which was Here Comes Santa Claus, Here Comes Santa Claus. Because I love Christmas. It'd be June. And I'm like, man, I can't wait for Christmas because I sure do love Santa. And that's how it was, just a little wiry kid strung out on sugar. And so they tried to put me in kindergarten, and that didn't work out too well. Again, the nap time was always a problem. And eventually, my memory is bad at best. And I do remember they told my mother to come get me, and that they didn't really want her to bring me back because I was such a problem in kindergarten. And so, when you start out in kindergarten like that, it progressively gets worse from there. I would like to think it would have gotten better, but it never did. First grade, second grade, I got held back because I had meningitis at one point, so I got held back a grade. I remember I went to Catholic school, Presbyterian school, I went to Jewish Community Center, I went to public school, I went to a military type school, and by the time I was in the 8th grade, I ended up in a school that basically everybody in New Orleans, parents that had money, sent their kids there because they would take them. That was it. And that is the truth. It was very expensive to go there, but they took everybody. Because I was kicked out of the public schools. They wouldn't allow me to go there anymore by the time I was in the 8th grade. And all the good private schools would not have nothing to do with me. I remember Archie Manning was a friend of my mom's, and Eli and all his brothers went to a school called Newman. And, they all graduated from there. And I remember my mom brought me there. I'm thinking to myself, I was old enough by this time to go, what the hell is she thinking? These people are going to look at me. And, I think I was in the 6th grade or something, 7th grade. Yeah, they weren't going to take me there. That school was real hard to get into. And like all the good schools, they're like, no, we're not taking this joker. He is way too much trouble. So, when I was like 12 or 13, I had my first drink, and I had been longing for a drink long before that. I never felt right. I was a poor little rich kid is what it was. My biological father I never knew. I have a brother. He grew up with my grandparents, and my mom remarried. I have had a stepfather. I have a half-sister, and we lived a good life. That's essentially what it was. It was real good times. My mom made lots of money as a real estate agent. My stepfather inherited a bunch of money, and, we lived really good. My mom was a big socialite in New Orleans, and, it was the late 70s, 80s, good times. But it sucked for me. It was poor little Mike, and then my sister came along. I had this big resentment because I didn't get the attention I needed, which was never enough. I always compared my insides to your outsides, so I always dressed nice. I always put on a good appearance, which was a prereq for Alcoholics Anonymous, I didn't know. I do remember in the 6th grade, I got best dressed, and that was my outstanding award in school. That was as good as it was ever going to get for me in school. So by the time, I'm 12 years old, I have these drinks. And what I remember about that night, it was a big deal because we lived in these apartments on Jackson Square called the Pentalba. It was Governor Edwards' old apartment because you can't buy them. And we had the Preservation Hall band playing there. We had bartenders, black tie affair, and I felt really out of place. I had this little wool jacket on, a little polo jacket, and these wool pants, and it was so hot. I'm a sweaty person today still, and I was a sweaty kid. Anxious, short. I'm not very tall now, but at 12, I probably was 4'9". And you put me in this monkey suit, and I'm already uncomfortable. So me and another kid like me decided, let's go have some drinks. And I had been drinking lots of Coca-Cola, so I knew rum and Coke was a popular drink. And I had warmed up to virgin pina coladas, which had rum, and strawberry daiquiri, so I was well versed in what was in them, and it was rum. So I said, I'm going to go get a couple rum and Cokes. So we got a couple rum and Cokes. And what happened was what it's described in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, a sense of ease and comfort that comes from a couple of drinks, I didn't get drunk, but I felt okay. I felt pretty good, and that was a lot for me. Because I never felt good, My bike was never nice enough, my clothes were never nice enough. Nothing was ever good enough for me. And again, this is long before I ever drink. So you have all these behavioral problems. You have all this inferiority complex, this feeling less than, all this fear-based stuff. Then you pour a little alcohol on it. Well, you got yourself something there. You really do. And by the time I was 15, which is a short run. By the time I was 15, I was living on the streets, prostituting, robbing, stealing, selling drugs, doing whatever I could, And that's how it goes, And it wasn't that I didn't have places to go, people to take care of me. My grandparents would always want to help me out. My brother was polar opposites of me. He would offer to help me, and put me back in school, do something, because I just quit. I said, I'm done with this. I had enough of this, telling me what to do. And in New Orleans, in the French Quarter, you can do that at 15, 16 years old. You can get away with it. And all the cops knew me. They picked me up here and there and just... Usually they let me go because they knew who I was. There's not a lot of kids that grew up in the French Quarter, which I've soon found out. A couple of my buddies, they all want to write a book, the ones that are still alive, because it is pretty odd that a child would grow up in that environment. It definitely makes for good storytelling. I can tell you that much. So, I'm living on the streets for a couple of years, and by that I started out as a nice little preppy kid, wearing the little penny loafers and the topsiders and the polo shirts and the alligator stuff, and then I found heavy metal music, and that really didn't gel. And I remember my friend, I came over, and he's like, dude, you got red polo pants on, man. And I was proud that everything I owned was all Ralph Lauren. And he's like, dude, that is the gayest stuff I've ever seen, man. And, so I immediately threw it all away. And I got every heavy metal band I liked, all black T-shirts, which just about killed my mother. Jeans, Levi jeans, that was my new attire. And, and I'm a chameleon, That's what my one friend called me. He's like, you're a chameleon. So I got into heavy metal music, and then, which is very conducive to drinking. And then I found something even better, because as I got a little bit older, older being 16, 15, I found punk rock music, and that was even better because it's violent, and I have a very, very strong violent tendency, which I soon nurtured and crafted and got very good at, and punk rock was right there with a lot of violence, people beating the shit out of each other, and I fell right in, and squatting, living on the streets was really cool. So there was a bunch of us, and that's what we did. We bummed for money. Milwaukee's Best was what we drank. It was $1.99 a six-pack. You had a case for $5.99. I'll never forget those numbers. And that's what we did. We drank beer and fought a lot, and mostly I got beat up, but I had friends that could fight really good, which is really important if you can't fight, by the way. I always levitate towards the big guys and the ones that can really, kick ass, because I'm the one talking, and they're the ones that always have to bail me out while I'm getting my ass kicked. Because that's generally how it would start out. I'd just come to and someone on top of me. That's generally how it went. But I would never tell that before. I'd always, I kicked them, beat them up. But anyway, so what ended up happening is I turned 17 in New Orleans, and in 17 New Orleans you're considered an adult, so they sent me to jail for real. And my brother had bonded me out, and then I ended up getting arrested again, so I went back to jail. They tend to frown on if you find credit cards and you try and use them. I didn't think it was that big a deal. They did. They really did. And then, that was a felony. My brother bonds me out. So I get out of jail, and so I shoot fireworks during Mardi Gras off a Cadillac, and I thought it was just hysterical. But the cop who owned the Cadillac, who was working off duty at the bar that none of us could go in, we just hung outside, which we had a keg sitting out there. did not think it was funny at all. So they threw me in jail, and since I was already out on bond, my grandparents wouldn't bond me out. So I stayed in there for 20 days, and they told me about Angola. They told me about all the fun things they do to young guys in prison. I had dreadlocks at that time. I ended up shaving my head because they have lice problems in this tent city that we were living in. And I just remember, like, you know, I'm not really cut out for prison, and I really don't think I want to go. So when I got out of jail, I remember I went and gathered all my stuff up, which fit in a suitcase, which I still have today. Had a big Bud sticker on it. That was important to me. Budweiser was high-end stuff to me. And my 410 sawed-off shotgun. And I loaded up and I moved to Florida. Hey, you know, it's like, you know, a sunny place for shady people, you know. And I'm like, I'm on the run, you know. I'm like, that's what everybody does, it seems like here. You know, and for me at the time, it was 1987. Spring break was really big. And I was like, man, I love spring break. Because every year in Louisiana, it's a big thing. Everybody goes to Gulf Shores, Alabama, or Pensacola. They still do it to this day. So I love the beach. You know, I'm like, oh, yeah. You know, I've been living on the streets for 2 years, but I want to hang out at the beach. And which, again, is a lot what happens here. So I end up coming to Florida, unfortunately. You know, I brought me with me and moved to Tampa and immediately got in a lot of trouble. You know, I thought I was leaving trouble. Well, believe me, trouble found me and I found it, and, you know, and proceeded to get in a lot more trouble here. I'm sure it's going to come as a shock to you guys. By the time I was 19, I was in prison. You know, I turned 20, 21, 21, 22, 23, 24 in prison. You know, and it wasn't a shock to me. I remember before I went to prison, I started working out. You know, because I know you got to work out and you got to fight a lot in prison. You know, I was very streetwise. And I remember my mom come out in the garage. I'm out there with a 2x4 on a mop pole, and she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm curling it. I'm working out. She was like, "Okay," you know, because I knew I was going to prison. I knew I was going to have to, you know, hold my own. So I go to prison, and you know. I remember that was like the first time I thought I had a problem with alcohol because, you know, I would drink and black out, which wasn't was a normal occurrence for me, was to drink and black out. I really didn't think I wouldn't eat before I drank, which was every day, but like I would eat earlier in the day, and then towards the afternoon I would quit eating because I didn't want to mess up my buzz, you know. And again, I'm 19 years old. This is how I think, you know, and you know, I did lots of other things, trust me. You know, I'm sure y'all probably figured that out. I don't need to tell you that. But drinking was the staple. You know, drinking was always it for me. The other stuff was always secondary, you know. And that's why I know I'm an alcoholic. You know, I really do. But anyway, so I go to jail, and I'll never forget it. I was in confinement in prison or in jail, and I asked my bunkie, I said, you know, he's in there for murder. I said, you know, I think I'm an alcoholic, bro. He's like, really? I said, yeah. Man, I drink and blah, blah, blah. He says, man, you can't be no alcoholic, man. How old are you? And I was like, 20. He says, you ain't no alcoholic. And I'm like, yep, that's right. I ain't no alcoholic. And that was it. You know, and I still remember that conversation today. You know, see, I get good information from good people, you know, because I had got a DUI when I was 19, and I remember I had to go to AA, and I went to one meeting, a noon meeting, and it was down in St. Pete, and I just remember thinking, you know, this isn't for me, you know, and I found somebody that told me, you know, a better way to deal with all the stuff that I was court ordered to do, so I did that, and so I end up going to prison, and, you know, I get out, and I remember I turned 21 in there, so I went the first day I got out, and mind you, now, the house that my mother and my sister and her boyfriend lived in was in a real nice neighborhood on St. Pete Beach, and the Pinellas County Sheriffs, the Hillsborough County Sheriff, the St. Pete Beach Police Department all came with a search warrant and tore her house up, literally from end to end, and so essentially she had to move from that house because of me. And now when I get out, the first thing I'm thinking, you know, aren't you glad I'm home? You know, this is the first person in my mother's family that's ever been to prison, you know, and it's her loving, darling son, you know, and that's how Duluth, I was really upset at her that she wasn't glad to see me, you know, that I was home finally, you know, And I remember she said, you can sleep on the couch and you need to get a job, and your piece of shit car we've been toting around, you need to do something with it too. And I remember I was so upset that day, and I remember I cried that night, and I didn't get it, I didn't get it at all. And so the next day, Joe picks me up, we go to Pizza Hut for lunch, and I'm 21. I said, let's get a pitcher of beer. This has been my first legal drink, man. This is cause for celebration. And they gave me $100 when I got out of prison. And I was back in prison within less than 5 months, Same thing, doing the same stuff. I remember the cops were parked down the street from my mom's house. And I'm like, man, that's an odd place for a speed trap. It's like on the beach, I mean, literally on the beach, there's a road in front of the house, and then you cross it and you're in water, I was like, man, that is really weird. And my mother comes home, she goes, oh my God, they know what you're doing. They know what you're doing. They're watching you. They're going to pick you up, blah, blah, blah. So I left, and they still picked me up. They found me, and I went back to prison. And, that was a shock, though. I really thought I was going to make it on the outs. I really did. But I didn't. And I went back, and I got in a lot of trouble in jail because I was pretty pissed off about the fact that I didn't stay out that long. And the good thing about that was I went to prison, I got involved in a riot, and they shipped me to another prison, and they jammed up my time. And a guy in the dorm told me that if you go to AA, you'll get out sooner. And I'm here to tell you, that's not true. It's not true at all. The parole board did not give two craps about me going to Alcoholics Anonymous, but I was so glad that he told me that. Because I started going to AA meetings in prison, and I went to the Kairos program. I went to some church stuff, not too much, because church people in prison aren't really highly looked upon. So I tried to stay away as much as possible. But, meanwhile, I'm selling weed, smoking weed in prison, but that's an outside issue. I just need to deal with the alcohol. And I remember I had sergeant at arms. I was doing service work in AA in prison. And, I remember there was a 12 and we did 2 meetings. We'd split it up. It was on Friday. And we'd have a 12 and 12 and another meeting. I don't know, I think it was a big book, I'm not sure. But I always go with the 12 and 12. And we'd sit in the room, this old guy came, and we talked about the 12 and 12. And I really liked it, and there was a guy in my dorm that had been in AA and was in AA and was back in prison. And we'd talk about Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'd read the little books. And I really thought it was a neat program. I really related to it, but I really didn't think that I was an alcoholic. And what I do is I compare. So the guy who comes in for AA every week, it's the same guy, because if you're in service, it's very hard to get in to go to prisons. So generally, there's not a lot of people that get to do it. So it was just these same 2 old guys that came in every week. And then I remember there was one speaker, and it was a young guy. He was real clean cut. So I'm sitting there inventorying him. I'm listening to his story. I'm like, I'm waiting. Is he going to go to jail? Is he going to go to prison? And he's got a nice job, a nice wife. And I'm thinking, dude, if I had all that, I wouldn't even be here. You know what I mean? And I'm like, see, AA is for squares and old people. I said, I don't fit in neither one of those boxes because I compartmentalize everything in my life. I don't know how you guys do, but that's how I do. So I said, AA is not for me. I'm a young punk from the streets, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to prove to you that I'm not scared. And maybe I got a drinking problem, maybe. I don't know. I don't think I'm an alcoholic, though, because the alcoholics I look at and hear aren't me. They don't look like me. They don't act like me. So I get out and I work my own program. I don't drink. I mean, Nancy Reagan said it best, just say no. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just saying no. Just saying no. Abstinence. I read a lot of self-help books. I read a lot. You got a lot of time. So I read a lot. And I read a lot about how to win friends and influence people. That was my favorite. I still use some of that today. And that's what I did. I got about the business of working. Prison was the best thing that ever happened for me. I'm forever grateful for the chain gang. It made me stand up straight, and made me accountable, made me work hard because I did not like to work at all. And when I got out, I got 3 jobs. I was working 100 hours a week, and I just became a workaholic. I had my license for a year, and I lost it for 7. Thank God I was locked up for 4. So I was able to get my license back, and I wasn't drinking. When that happened, I got a job as a bartender, and I figured out the problem with my drinking was. I figured out that it was that I drank cheap beer, and I drank quarts. That was the problem. Because these rich people at the country club I worked at, they all drank real high-end stuff. And, we didn't serve malt liquor there. And, there was no Schaefer on tap, so I figured that was the problem. I drank cheap stuff, and if I could do like these people did, again, I compare out there for in here. So I started drinking Kettle One night. It had been 4.5 years since I had a drink. Now, normal people don't keep track, but I do. And I said, well, look, 4.5 years without a drink, you cannot be an alcoholic. This is the mind games I play with myself. So I said, yeah, I think that, I'm talking, I think you have, why not? So I'll never forget, I took a styrofoam glass because everyone at the country club drank that worked there. That was a prereq. I think country clubs are big write-offs for some big company somewhere, but anyway. So I had this Kettle One in a styrofoam glass with a little bit of cranberry that night, and I was off and running, and I had done pretty well for myself. I had bought a house. I got out of prison with $100 in a garbage bag of clothes, and within less than 2 years, I owned my own house, had a nice little BMW, had a nice girlfriend, good job. I was working at a mortgage company today, which proves you why the mortgage industry is so screwed up. You got guys like me working in it. Not anymore, though. I can't get that job. And I was a night manager at a bar at night, but I'm drinking now, and when I drink, I don't drink at home. I like to drink and go places, and I like to go places fast, and I like to go places 7 nights a week. I never stay at home. My house was where I slept, and that was it. And so immediately I start getting in trouble again, and what ends up happening is the last hoorah, so to speak, was I hit a tree at 5 in the afternoon down on the beach. And I almost lost my eye. I fractured my orbital socket, and I had to have plastic surgery. Luckily, the girl that was with me didn't get hurt. Luckily, I didn't kill anybody. There was a lady walking her dog and saw the whole thing. Ended up getting in a fight with the cops at the hospital, and it was a big deal, And I was already on trouble. I got caught doing 120 and a 35. I was, just all kind of stuff. My girl, I took in a DUI for me one night when I ran up in someone's yard. So this one I ended up getting a DUI, but it still doesn't slow me down. My eye's swollen shut for 2 months, and I remember my attorney at the time telling me, you cannot drink, you cannot drink, and I'm like, no, that's not an option. Maybe not driving and drinking is the option. That is definitely a problem, and I just kept drinking, and what ended up happening is I ended up getting caught without driving again for the 7th time, and they made it a felony, and they wanted to send me to prison again. And I was like, something's got to give. And what ended up happening is I had a lot of domestic violence with my fiance at the time, so I couldn't stay at the house. I'm sleeping on mom's couch. I'm 28 years old. I got laid off from the mortgage job. The restaurant, the bar, they fired me because they're like, you got way too much stuff going on. You really need to figure out your outside life, because I had just come to work and I was a wreck. And so what ended up happening, it was a guy named Dan. Dan and I worked together, and he gave my mother his number and said that somehow she told him that I was going to AA, which I really wasn't, but I was supposed to be. And so she tells me, she goes, oh, you remember Dan? I said, yeah, Dan, an asshole. But I said, yeah, I remember Dan. She goes, oh, Dan's sober in AA. He's been sober over a year, and he said that he would take you to meetings. He goes every night. I said, wow. I thought, we go on Fridays. Isn't that what you do? You go on Fridays. We go on Fridays on prison. I'm thinking, 7 days a week? Really? People do that? And she's like, here's his number. He told me to give you his number and for you to call him, and he'll take you to a meeting. And of course, I didn't call him. I kept the number, though, and this fateful morning, December 19th, 1998, I woke up. My mother said, you got to go. You got to go. You can't sit on our couch, because that whole week I wasn't supposed to be drinking and stuff, and every night I'd been coming home drunk, passing out on my mom's couch, and just being a total loser. And I used to think I got myself sober that day, and I know that if my mother wouldn't have said anything, if my mother would have did nothing that morning like she had did the previous mornings, I would still be drinking. Well, I wouldn't still be. I'd be in prison, but that's where I would be. But because she said that you got to go, I had nowhere to go because my so-called friends, co-defendants, the people I hung out with, they weren't going to put me up in their place. So I called Dan. I'm crying and I'm like, it's 10:30 in the morning. I'm hungover. I stayed out drinking till like 4 or 5 in the morning, and I started drinking at about 11. And I feel like crap. So I call him up and he says, "You want to go to a meeting?" And I said, "Yes." And my time is up. And see, I got into the jail and never got sober. Hate when that happens. So anyway, so I go to my first meeting with Dan. Dan becomes my sponsor, and I didn't know what that meant. And we proceeded to go about the business of getting sober, and he picked me up every day. We went to a meeting every night. He picked me up at 7:30, and it was the worst thing I'd ever done, it sucked. I don't know about your first year, but mine was horrible. It was the worst thing. You had to be honest on job applications. What is that? Where is that in the big book? And so the jobs weren't jumping out to find me, and it was just a tough time for me. But, luckily I met some guys in AA that were like me, and they had me listen to speaker tapes, because at that time there wasn't a lot of young people's groups. There was only one. There was actually 2 in the state of Florida at that time. So I got involved with that young people's group, and, I never looked back. I got a year, and, and what I did, always forget to tell about all the service work that I do. I absolutely love being involved in service. I started sponsoring guys when I was real new. It was a good experience for me because I can't learn from other people's experience. I have to learn by doing. That's how I am. I'm a kinetic learner. That's the only way I know how. I ended up getting a trade. I had no skills when I came in. I worked in bars and sold drugs and lied to people about their mortgages. Stuff like that, and I ended up finding out what I'm good at. I met my wife when I was 2 years sober. We ended up getting married on my 5-year anniversary. David was my best man because they said, "You don't have your marbles back till you're 5 years sober." So I said, "I'm going to wait till I'm 5 years sober." This is a big commitment because I'd never been married before, and that was, getting involved with my wife was the best thing. She's been involved in Al-Anon now for 10 years. We've been together 10 years, and she found out, not because of my drinking, but her family of origin, and I thought she just liked me. So after 5 years sober, I ended up opening my own business. That went great, did really well in it, and my wife was really good at helping me, so I made sure she had nothing to do with it. And proceeded to almost get drunk, essentially, is what it came down to. I don't know about you guys, but I'm real into making money. Anything that changes the way I feel. I wrecked 2 motorcycles in sobriety, almost, got hurt really bad both times. That kind of stuff. I almost got arrested one night for reckless driving. I got doing 120 going to an AA convention. That was fun. I really wanted to hear Tom I that morning, trust me. My wife's like, "Why are you going so fast? It's like Sunday morning at like 9 o'clock. I'm like, "I don't know." My sponsor, I met him when I was like 6 months sober, and we ended up going to 2000 International Convention. It was great. Just went to San Antonio, go to a lot of conventions. I was a treatment chair. I was the alternate treatment chair. I was a treatment chair, GSR, alternate GSR, all kind of stuff. And, it's a life second to none. It really is. If you get in here and do what we do, which is get involved, I told a guy the other night, I said, "You know what? The whole deal is here. You got to help somebody else." I go, "It's real simple." He's talking about this guy. I go, I was like, "That's it, man. You got to get out of yourself. You can't, that's the only way you're going to do it. Because if left to my own devices, I know how I'm going to live my life, So, for me, it's real important. I'm really involved in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I stay really involved in Alcoholics Anonymous. It's really important that my wife's really involved in Al-Anon, and she works her program. Because it's hard to be in a relationship with a knucklehead like me. I don't deny that fact. I burned myself the other day. I'm like, "Oh, it'll heal up in 2 weeks." She's like, "You're nuts. That's a bad burn." It's like 3 months later. She's like, "Yeah, remember you said, what was that, 2 weeks?" She goes, "Yeah, you're still delusional." And, and that's the truth. I am. I get myself into jackpots even today, but that's not bad for a guy like me. I've never been arrested. I have a 6-page criminal record. I'm a career criminal by the state of Florida, and since I've been sober, I've not found it necessary to go back, and that's a big deal, you know. So, and I thought my problem was getting in trouble. You know, I found out what my real problem was with you people, and that's that I am an alcoholic. Thank you.